We're in the middle of a major mobile home renovation. We've basically gutted and rebuilt this whole house. And during this process, we've inspired some other people to start working on their mobile homes, and we also get some questions about that process. There's one thing that we just wanted to cover. Before you start any mobile home renovation, you have to understand the structure. Mobile homes aren't really designed to carry a huge weight load, so you gotta be careful when you renovate a house that you're not adding too much excessive weight that could cause damage or instability in the structure. So I think it's really important to understand how a mobile home is built and how that weight is being carried. So let's go down under the house and we're gonna take a look at it. All right, I'm underneath the house now so I can show you the structure. We have a 1970s double wide, and what's really good about ours is that there's no underbelly and no insulation, so I can actually show you guys the structure that you won't be able to see. Most likely, if you go under your mobile home, you're gonna see a black tarp almost. It's gonna be a black plastic bottom, and that's the barrier that protects your insulation, that insulates your floor. For some reason, ours doesn't exist. There's no insulation, there's no barrier, so it makes it easier to work on. Now, as you can see under here, we got a steel beam. This is part of the chassis. This is what really defines the home as a mobile home, because this is the steel chassis that the wooden frame is built on, and this is what they would attach the axles to transport the house to the property. So you'll have this, and like I said, normally they would have the insulation and underbelly wrap right here. Now, as we've been renovating our home, we've been thickening up the walls to 5.5 inches. We've been beefing up the ceilings with 2x6s. We've been adding a lot of weight. We've been doing drywall instead of paneling, and we're even tiling the floor in some of the rooms. All that weight really adds up on a structure. So before you add that weight, you gotta understand this. This is super important, and I thought I'd do a video because I don't want you guys to see what we're doing and try to copy what we're doing and have structural problems with your mobile home down the road. The first thing I want you to notice about mobile homes is these joists. These floor joists are only 2x6s, so that means they're only 5.5 inches tall. They're not very strong. So 2x6s are gonna have a little more flex, a little more give than a traditional house framed with 2x10s or something along that lines. Now, what's good is that the steel chassis supports the 2x6s pretty close together. On ours, there's only about a 6 or 8, not even 8 feet between the metal supports. So these 2x6 joists, even though they're kind of small, they still have some good structure because they're supported well underneath by these metal framing. But you can see that I did double up in some places. Some of these were doubled up, and I did add my own doubles in some places where I wanted to give the floor extra strength. I have doubled joists underneath the washing machine, underneath the water heater, places where there might be a heavy load, heavy water loads especially, or movement. That's gonna help the floor not bow, tile not crack, that kind of thing. So keep in mind that your floor joists probably aren't that big, so you gotta watch out for that. I'm gonna give you guys another view now, and this view is the edge of the mobile home. So we're on the opposite side of that steel beam. So we got this beam and that beam going across. I know I got some mold down here. We're going to take care of that later. But on the opposite side of this is the edge of the mobile home. So right here is where the two halves of the home meet. So we have this half and this half, and they're joining down the middle. This is the marriage line. So this is two separate halves. If you have a single wide, this is your outside wall. And on your outside walls of your mobile home, I want you to notice that there's no support underneath the wall. So this is the middle of the mobile home where the middle wall is, and there's no support under it. And on a normal mobile home, we have a foundation wall over there, but you're not gonna have support under that. So this is the biggest concern when you're building up a lot of weight on your mobile home, is all that weight is gonna sit on these outside walls. So what I want you guys to imagine is that this is the outside wall of your mobile home. And for us, it's the marriage line, but there is a wall there going down the length of the home. And then on the outside, there's a wall. And when you add all that weight, drywall, thickening your walls, roofing, all that stuff, it puts weight on your outside walls. And you can see there's nothing supporting it. It's just cantilevered over the chassis. So we have about maybe 30 inches, I don't know, of hangover on this, of just wood hanging over. And now we do have these. These are called outriggers. This is part of the metal framing, and it does help support these, but you can see there's not too many of them. I got another couple down there. And the fact of the matter is, these can only hold so much weight. So realistically, all this weight is being carried by these 2x6 joists that are resting on this steel beam. So that's why you don't want to put too much weight on those outside walls, because over time it can cause this to sag from the weight. Now what we did is I ended up putting some lag bolts through every so often. I put some lag bolts to join the two halves together, because at least then the weight would be carried by both sides rather than just one side or the other. And that's something that I'm doing just to give the strength, the house, just to give the structure a little more strength. Now, our outside wall is carried pretty well by this foundation. Since we have a really good foundation, and I mean a solid block concrete wall, the house rests on it pretty well, and I'm not worried about settling and shifting. So I can add a little extra weight to that outside wall without too much concern, because I know this is here. But a lot of mobile homes, they're just set on blocks, and a lot of those blocks are just set on the ground. So those homes are going to tend to settle and shift over time, and you have to re-level them over time. That's where you don't want to add a lot of weight to your home. So I would definitely say, check your foundation first before you add a ton of weight. See what your house is sitting on. If it's just sitting on blocks on the dirt, and there's no real support for those outside walls, and your home's going to move around, all that extra weight is going to make it hard for you to level your home, and could cause structural issues with your home shifting and the walls sagging over time. Now they do make adjustable outriggers. So if that's something where you already have a joist that's sagging, or you have a door that's not closing right, you can actually adjust these outside joists with an adjustable outrigger, and it's basically a metal piece that'll go from this beam out to here bolted on, and you can tighten it up to raise that up. So if you do want to reinforce your structure or straighten out a joist, you can look for those adjustable outriggers for a mobile home. So I hope this has given you guys an understanding of how a mobile home is built. You see, we actually have steel going this way supporting the frame. This is the chassis, outriggers coming out. These are what's really carrying the structure. And you got the span of 2x6 going there. While we were gutting our home, one of the things we ended up doing was leaving the center wall with the original paneling. We decided to leave that paneling because there was no good reason to tear it down, and adding drywall would have just been more weight on this center line. And as you can see, like I said, there's nothing supporting this center of the mobile home, and that's why we wanted to keep it as light as possible. And we already have a ton of weight carried from the extra load of the new insulation, the heavier ceiling joists, all that stuff. I'm trying to keep this wall, this center line, as light as possible, also reinforcing it the best I can through lagging it together and just doing whatever I can do. If I do see any problems in the future, I could add some adjustable outriggers, or I can try to support the middle wall with extra supports in the foundation here. Another reason you got to really understand the structure of a mobile home is because you can see the joists are smaller than a standard house joist would usually be, but the ceiling is the same way. If you want to put drywall or something on your ceiling, you got to look at the structure, because most mobile home ceilings are either 2x2s or 2x4s in most cases. They might not be able to carry that extra load of the drywall without sagging over time, and then you don't want a saggy, droopy ceiling, so you might have to reinforce it with wood or at least distribute the weight with extra strapping, something. So mobile homes aren't built exactly like standard houses. They do have weaknesses, but if you understand the weakness and you understand the structure and how it's built, then you can work around them, reinforce it, and know what to expect. So that's what I'm trying to share with you guys. It's just what to expect, and this is what a mobile home looks like underneath. Another thing I want to mention is that most mobile home floors are made from a particle board, and that particle board is not very strong, and if it ever gets wet, it just falls apart. So also check for that, especially if you want to do any tile. Most mobile homes are just not acceptable for tile flooring. Ours luckily has a plywood subfloor, And I actually doubled it up with another 5/8 inches on top of it just to try to stiffen it up a little bit more and distribute that weight. So I think this is a good shot of how the mobile home is constructed. You can see the two steel chassis. We've got a center support to keep them stabilized. Here's the outrigger coming out to help support these outside walls. And again, this is the outside wall of the mobile home, or the center wall in a double wide. So there it is, guys. I tried giving you the best video I could down there. It's super dusty and I don't like to stay down there too long without a mask on. But I hope you guys got the idea of how a mobile home is kind of supported. In a normal house, you'll have a foundation wall or supports underneath all load-bearing walls, all the outside walls, all the major inside walls. You're gonna have all that supported, so you can pretty much add as much weight as you want without any big problems. The mobile homes are different because the weight is being carried a little bit in from the outside walls. It's on a trailer body, that chassis. You can see we're getting ready on laying out Detra. We're gonna be tiling the floor in here. There's still concerns with laying tile on a mobile home. I normally wouldn't recommend it. We're kind of pushing the limits of this mobile home, but I feel pretty confident because we have the solid plywood floors. I can reinforce it easily from the basement because we don't have all that underbelly wrap. Remember, if you guys have all that insulation and underbelly, you're not going to access your joists as easily as I can, and you won't be able to double up and reinforce the best that you can. When we gutted this, we built our outside walls out to 5.5 inches so we could add extra insulation, and even that adds all that extra framing and weight to the outside wall. If we didn't have that foundation directly underneath on our outside wall, we wouldn't have done that. So remember that when you guys do your mobile homes, that you don't have to build out your walls to get that insulation. An alternative to that would be to get a foam board insulation and put it on the outside of your house underneath your siding. Some mobile homes, that's going to be difficult if you have that metal siding and mobile home windows. You really got to work with your situation. If you have to bring your insulation up to keep the weight down, go with a foam board. You may even be able to get away with putting it on the inside. Consider putting foam board on the inside and covering that with something that's flame retardant, even just more paneling or something. Really just be creative. With a mobile home, you gotta be creative. You gotta think outside the box a little, but you gotta be smart because you don't wanna mess anything up by overloading your outside walls. They might be totally fine. You gotta remember the 2x6s are pretty strong, but you better be safe than sorry. I just thought I would give this information so that you guys can make better choices and not just copy what we're doing, because what we're doing isn't always the best choice for your mobile home. And I think that's it. So I hope this video helps you guys in your own remodels and renovations, gives you some ideas. Just be aware of the structure and how it works so that you can build with it and not against it. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. This was a little more informational instead of just showing you what's going on. We just wanted to share this message before we get to laying tile and everything else. So we'll have another video coming soon. I hope I see you guys there. But until next time, take care.
Bye.